Hi, and welcome to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm Dupe Witherick, alcohol free wellbeing and transformational coach, and the best selling author of A Cocktail of Clarity, How to Ditch Drinking, Embody a Joyful New Identity, and Thrive Alcohol Free. This podcast will show you that being alcohol free is not what the traditional narrative says. And even though alcohol is so ingrained in our society that it is okay to give yourself permission to stop drinking if you want to. And you do not have to wait until you hit rock bottom. It is certainly not boring, and I believe ditching drinking is just the start to living an extraordinary life. By getting rid of this one thing, it allows the doors to open to endless possibilities and opportunities. Each week, we will have guests on who are at various stages of the alcohol-free journey, from those who are curious to those who have been alcohol-free for years. We will also have experts on talking about different topics relating to alcohol and beyond. Through these conversations, you will discover what it means to thrive alcohol-free. Enjoy. Hi, and welcome to the latest episode of the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I'm so pleased you are here. And today's episode is a really special one. I cannot believe it, but the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast has been out officially for a year. So the very first two episodes came out last year on the Thursday, 28th of September, 2023. And we're now a year in. So it's the 26th of September today. And I just can't believe it. And I thought I would celebrate. I am so grateful to everyone who has listened to the podcast. I'm grateful for you today for listening to the podcast. And if you are listening for the first time, then I hope you go back to some of the amazing episodes that we've had. So there have been 53 episodes of the podcast so far. And yeah, a year is pretty special. I had every intention of starting a podcast probably about a year before I actually did. I felt like it was something that was on my heart to do, but I think I felt quite nervous to do it and wondered if I'd get guests onto the podcast, wondered if people would be interested. You have those thoughts, don't you? As there are already so many podcasts out there, how's this one going to be different? But anyway, it took me about a year and I did a few courses on podcasts and just tried to get inspired to learn how to do a podcast. And then finally, in August 2023, someone said something to me that then just triggered me to do it. And so the person said to me, do it messy. And I think for the first time, I was given permission to just get this podcast out. And I was really keen to get it out because, similar to my book, A Cocktail of Clarity, I really wanted the podcast to be for anyone who might be thinking about stopping drinking, but maybe not think that they can because they haven't hit rock bottom. They don't really feel like they're any different to their friends. They're what you would call a normal drinker. And so I wanted a podcast that would inspire the majority of drinkers who are grey area drinkers, and that's a spectrum. And I also wanted to have some amazing guests on. And so when I decided to do it messy, it's amazing what happens when you make a decision, because I think the following week I went to an event and William Porter happened to be there. And I said, I have a podcast and would he be on it? And he agreed. And so after my delightful husband came on for the second episode of the podcast, I did an initial episode, which was just me. That was the first one. Then my husband and I did an episode about being alcohol free at home and the impact it had on our relationship, etc. And that was episode two. And then William Porter, bless him, was the next guest on my podcast on the third episode. So I couldn't have asked for anything better to kick it off, really. And from there, we have had some amazing guests. And I am so grateful to everyone who has been a guest on the podcast. And they've all had different journeys, different stories. They brought their expertise and their thoughts and their view of being alcohol free. And it's been amazing. And so As I said, if this is your first time listening to the podcast, I do encourage you to go back. But some of the people I've had on are people like, as I said, William Porter, I've had Andy Ramage, I've had Denise Hamilton Mace from the Low No Drinkers magazine, I've had on Maggie Clarson's The Sober Summit, which is happening this week, and I'll talk a bit more about that later. I've had Amanda Thompson, who is the founder of Naughty, which is my favorite alcohol-free drink. And I've had people like the Be Sober Girls, Lisa and Alex, had Laura Willoughby from Club Soda. I mean, there's so many people. I've had Claire Pooley, who was amazing, and just such a privilege to have her on, plus so many others. And I don't want anyone to feel like I've left them out, but I've been so fortunate with the different guests that I've had on. And special mention to a couple of people, Alex McRoberts, who you may know as the Sober Yoga Girl, who has just brought out her book, and she was on the episode a few weeks ago. She's been on the podcast twice now. And then Ken McKimsey Middleton, of course, he was on the podcast last week, and we were celebrating a year of his book, Bamboozled. He's been on the podcast 3 times and actually was the guest host when he was interviewing me when I was celebrating a year of A Cocktail of Clarity book. And so this is an episode of celebration, and I just wanted to say thank you for listening, and here's to many more episodes. I'm planning on keeping going for as long as I can. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to the next guests that I have on for our second year of the podcast. But one of the reasons that I do feel really proud of this podcast is because there were a few facts that I heard about podcasts, again, when I was just starting out. And I made a note of this when I heard these facts on the 25th of October, 2023. So I was literally a month into the podcast at this point. And the reason to start a podcast, if you're thinking you want to start one, is to share your voice and share the important message that you have. And it's a great thing to have a platform, and it is a great platform to be on. But what was interesting were the statistics around podcasting. And so I'll read you the statistics, and this is why I am really proud of the podcast, because it has done really well. So they say 50% of podcasts have fewer than 14 downloads per episode. And this podcast has more than 14 downloads per episode, which is great. The average number of episodes published by a podcast is only 14 episodes. So we've actually reached 54 episodes today, which is incredible. 40 episodes more than the average number of episodes of a podcast. And that only 10% of podcasts make it past their 20th episode. And so, again, that to me makes me feel really grateful, really proud that we've kept this podcast going. And we've been here every week for 50, it's our 54th episode. And I do hope you found it really helpful. It's also been wonderful to get the feedback and to get the reviews of the podcast, and just to hear that it's helped people and people have enjoyed the episode. So my next ambition really is to achieve what was the final statistic that I heard, which is in order to see a really highly successful show, typically it takes 100 episodes. So we're over halfway there with the podcast, and hopefully this time next year we'll be celebrating 2 years with over 100 episodes. So thank you for being here, and I appreciate you. As I said, I really hope that this is something that's helping you. And if you've been listening since week one, then thank you so much for being here. If this is your very first episode, thank you for being here. Go back and listen to some of the others. And so today's episode is something that I thought would be quite fun. I've loved the fact that since the beginning of this podcast, I've always asked the guests one question, which is always the same. The rest of the episode will always be different. I always end up with this one question, and that is, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you? And all my guests have answered it in their own way, and they've all been amazing answers, which I've loved. And so I thought today I would share with you the answers of what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you. And I hope that inspires you, encourages you, and motivates you to keep going on this alcohol-free journey. Or if you've been curious about becoming alcohol-free, then it might encourage you to take that initial break. And so I do hope you enjoy this episode, which is all about what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you. And I'll go through all our guests' answers, and I hope that you find it encouraging. So before we go into that, we'll go into that in a second, but I also wanted to highlight that we are now on day 2 of the Sober Summit, and I'm speaking today on the Sober Summit, and my talk is finding your passion in sobriety. And so if you haven't had a chance to join the Sober Summit yet, I'll leave the link below. There's still time to join. You get access to the recordings for 24 hours, but then you can also grab your all access pass, which means that you then have it extended, and there are a load of bonuses as well in that all access pass. And so I'll leave the link below. Again, if you haven't heard about it, it's a free event. It features 24 amazing speakers who are ready to inspire you to live your best life alcohol free. So I do hope you can join me for the Sober Summit. And without further ado, here are all the answers from my amazing guests on the podcast who have contributed their response to what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you. Okay, enjoy. I want to welcome a very special guest to me, of course, my husband, Nicholas. I'm going to ask every guest this question. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Unlimited potential. You have to fight the emotion that will come in where you think, what have I done with my life for 12 years or 15 years or 20 years? Certainly the last 4 or 5 years, I think, what have I done? Have I reached my potential? And the answer is definitely, not probably, not, well, maybe. No, it is definitely no. To thrive alcohol-free is that absolute knowledge that if I set my mind to it, I can achieve it. In the last year, I've written a book, I've started a podcast, I've launched a business, unlimited potential, none of which I would have done, had the inclination to do, had the energy to do, had the focus to do, I know, without saying this thing is beginning to impede what I remember my potential was as a 23-year-old, a 24-year-old. I was unstoppable. And that's slowly been eroded. So to thrive is just really getting back on that track of saying, sky's the limit. The sky's the limit. Might be hard work, might take a lot of hours, might be bloody expensive, might take me 10 years, but I'm going to do it. And it's not fobbing yourself off thinking I'm going to do it tomorrow, which is what you do when you start having a drink. What I did when I started having a drink, I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to reward myself. I've just got out of bed. I'm going to reward myself. No, the potential you have, people listening to this, is unlimited when you have that clarity of thought and heart and mind, which only comes when you ditch drinking.
William Porter, who is the author of Alcohol Explained, Alcohol Explained 2. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
So for me, I think it's all about potential. I think it's just about being the best version of yourself, which probably sounds like something that people say all the time, but it really does feel that way because you're not at your best when you're anxious because you've got this chemical anxiety sat there. You're definitely not at your best when you haven't slept properly, which is what alcohol does to us. It increases your heart rate. When your heart rate goes up, you feel tired and you want to sit down. So the version of you as a drinker, you're irritable, you're tired, you're anxious. It's just not a good version of you. And so for me, it's just about being the best version of yourself. And I mentioned before, some people are more confident, some people are less confident. Wherever you are on whatever scale, if you stop drinking, you're just doing the best you can for yourself, I think. All about potential.
Gemma Mills, who is the founder of Jomo Club. I'd love to get your view on what thriving alcohol-free would mean to you.
So for me, I obviously spoke about it earlier, but I found in a social situation, I needed to be the life and soul of the party. I needed to stand on the table and order the shots for everybody and be the fun. I have got to a place now where I can go out and I don't need to have one single drink, and I'll probably still be standing on the table dancing at 3 a.m. anyway. So I think thriving alcohol free to me is understanding why you're not drinking and just staying true to that for yourself. You don't have to drink for anybody else. You don't have to drink because you're trying to play a certain persona, but getting to that point where you can say, I'm not drinking, and either give a reason or give no reason at all is thriving alcohol free to me, because I think it's a very confident place to be, and it's beneficial for everyone involved to make that decision for yourself and not for anyone else.
Alex McRobert, what would you say thriving alcohol-free means to you?
I think thriving alcohol-free is being sober, but seeing the joy and the benefit and the positive that it brings to your life, and not being focused on the drawbacks or the disadvantages. Thriving to me means looking at it from a lens of all the amazing things this is adding to my life, all the benefits this is adding to my life, and how much better things are sober as opposed to not.
Jill Mackay, who is a fellow coach, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
So for me, without a shadow of doubt, it is around freedom and choice. I didn't realise how tightly locked the shackles were on my own life until I quit the booze. I really didn't know how I was holding myself back. I mean, maybe I did intellectually, but I didn't really know in my heart and my gut how I was playing small, how I was holding myself back, how I was avoiding doing some great things in life. You know, like walking around the park at lunchtimes. Again, it doesn't have to cost anything. Like, you know, going and seeing Take That 3 times in one concert tour. Whatever it is, it may not be everybody's choice, but it's choice and freedom. I did not know how much I'd limited myself when I was drinking. The limiting became a pattern for me. And I didn't know that until I was free of it. So for me, it's about, the answer to the question is really clear. It's freedom and choice. Absolutely. It's wonderful at my great age to have those in my life. It's like being reborn.
What would you say thriving alcohol-free means to you, Maggie?
Yeah, so I think we touched on it a bit. Thriving alcohol-free to me is freedom. And what I mean by that is not having that noise in your head of making rules around drinking, feeling disappointed because you drank when you said you weren't going to, having that conversation in your head of how many have I had? Did I already have my half? But how much did he have? Did he have his half? You know, right? It's just this constant noise in your head. And so thriving alcohol free to me is that freedom that you get from not having to think about it again. And now your thoughts are, how do I show up in this world and be the best version of myself? And that feels really good.
Annika, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Thriving alcohol-free to me means growth. Means growth, and it means healing. Yeah. Personal growth.
What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Barbara?
I did wonder if you were going to ask me this, Dupe. So for me, it means being authentic with myself, knowing myself, trusting myself, doing what I want to do when I want to do it. That's, you know, I would say yes to things quite yeah, I see you nodding. Yeah. I'd say things regularly that I didn't say yes to things that I really didn't want to do. And I'm quite good at not doing that any longer. Yeah, and I'm more about, not that I like obviously helping people. It's not that it's just about me, but of course, if I'm not happy in myself, how can I help someone else? So it is about me being authentic with myself to be able to help other people.
Kaylin Asher is an award-winning business coach. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Kaylin?
I think what's landing for me is putting yourself first. It maybe doesn't feel like that right out of the gate when you choose to remove alcohol. It might feel like you're removing a treat or a hobby or something you really enjoy. But ultimately, it's a decision that you're putting yourself first before a drink. And to reiterate what we just said, that and it puts you in touch with your power and your authenticity and your clarity and your excitement and your inspiration and all of these things that are right there ready to be present and be part of your life, but just get swallowed up with alcohol. They come back, and there's all of these really cool things that unfold, like these really amazing opportunities that you wouldn't even be able to wish for or define, that start happening because you're wide awake to your life.
Geeta Sidhu is a 5-time winner of the Entrepreneur and Businesswoman of the Year award. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
What it means for me to thrive without alcohol is a sense of freedom. It's that sense of being fully myself on every level and being aligned with myself and liking all of that. I think it's such an immense privilege.
Hadley Sorensen, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Oh, I think that's such a good question, because I think it's so hard for people to picture that early on when you're first starting. Like the thought of thriving alcohol-free probably sounded so far off and out of reach. What I think it means to me now is feeling comfortable in your own skin, looking in the mirror and liking the person you see, feeling like you're living in alignment with your values and your moral compass, and getting to that point where you realize that alcohol wasn't adding anything. It was only holding you back. And now is when you can really thrive and move forward. And it takes a while to get there, but you can for sure. And it's absolutely worth it.
Carol May Whittick is a creativity and spiritual life coach. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
I would say the main thing for me, thriving alcohol-free, means that I'm just clearly connected to my intuition, my inner voice, my higher self, whatever you want to call it. I just kind of see the vision and the way and the steps that I'm meant to go in my life. And the confidence and the clarity and the joy that comes for that. And like I say, it doesn't mean that every day is a good day, but it just means that I know the steps that I need to take, or I know where I'm aiming for. And if I didn't have that guidance of what it is that I'm trying to do, I could see how it would be very easy to fall into stress and anxiety and depression, because I wouldn't have any direction. So for me, it just keeps my direction clear.
Denise Hamilton Mace. She's the founder and editor of the Low No Drinker magazine. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Good question. I think for me, it is about the biggest thing I've got out of my cutting back on alcohol, because I never said that I was never going to drink again. I've never had that moment where I've gone, this is it, I'm done. I don't know how many days it's been since I haven't had a drink. That bit to me turned out not to be so important. For me, what I've discovered is that I've really now gotten to know myself in a way that I never have before. I've been on this planet for 4 decades, and it's only now that I can truly feel confident in who I am as a person. In every job that I've had, in every situation I've been in, whether I recognized it at the time or not, I have had a huge, huge case of imposter syndrome. And I've never truly felt like I was in the right place, or I was doing the right thing, or I was saying the right thing, or dressing the right way. Now, do you know what's amazing? I don't care. And it is liberating.
Oh, yeah.
And I am thriving in just being unapologetically me. And you know what? When I don't know something now, I don't care. I'll ask. I'm emailing with someone at the moment. I've got a clue what he's on about. I'm really sorry. I don't mean to sound ignorant, but what are you talking about? And it's okay. And if he thinks I'm stupid for it, then so be it.
Yeah.
I am me, and that is what I feel that thriving alcohol-free has been about.
Andy Ramage, the godfather of the alcohol-free movement. Andy co-founded the 1 Year No Beer movement and recently co-created the Dry App and Dry Coach online community. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
I'll try and keep it really short. It is a superpower.
Yeah.
There you go. It is a superpower. There's no better power on this planet if you've been a middle lane drinker than removing it.
Karolina Jakowska is an alcohol-free empowerment expert. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Karolina?
I think it's truly living free. You know, with freedom being such a big value of mine, the freedom to be myself wholeheartedly without needing something else to make me feel better or be someone else. I think it's the freedom to really own my lifestyle and my values. And it's the freedom to own my desires as well, that my desires are not wrong or outlandish or crazy, that they are my destiny and that they are the vehicle that not only will help me live a life on purpose, but also help the most people on this planet. So I think that freedom is so important to me. And I'm so grateful for the past version of me who finally listened to her intuition. Because trust me, my intuition was telling me for a long time to get rid of the alcohol.
It does.
And I did not listen for quite a long time until I did, you know, and I will forever be grateful to that version of me.
Amanda Thompson, the CEO and founder of Naughty. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
I guess, I mean, and just to clarify, I never want smoke and mirrors, so I still enjoy the odd drink. But for me, what it means to me is energy. I find my energy is entirely different when I wake up in the morning, when I've had Naughty the night before. Entirely different, entirely positive, entirely clear, much more optimistic. So it means energy for me. And for me, good energy is what we all need more of in the world to make it go round, as well as building my brand.
Yeah. Arwen Becker, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
It's honestly just living fully authentic into who you've been created to be. It's not having anything else that tempers, changes, alters who you've been designed to be to others on this planet. That is it. The whole idea of authenticity, when you remove a substance that alters who you are, when you remove that, you find out fully who you are. And I pray to God that you help work on those areas that you're not happy with. But at least now you have all the faculties to focus on that. But then you also fully embrace who you've been created to be and the gifts that have been placed inside of you that need to be brought to the world, and tempering those or downplaying them or removing them because of a substance. You're just doing a disservice to yourself, but more importantly, to the generations of people that your life here is supposed to connect with and inspire and improve.
Lisa and Alex from Be Sober. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you? So I'd love to hear both your answers to that.
I think, to me personally, sobriety is great for your health, you know, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, all those things. It's fantastic to get sober. But for me, thriving is when you actually find the what next. So I've reignited my childhood hobby, passion and talent of playing the organ, which I talk about all the time. I was really embarrassed that I was an organ player through my later teenage and into my early adult life. But now I play on a Sunday at the church. I would never, ever, ever be doing that if I was still drinking, never. And that to me is like part of my thriving. I'm actually doing something I genuinely love that fills me with joy and lights me up. And I think the other thing is the physicality of it, like I've just mentioned, you know, I qualified as a personal trainer since I got sober. That's what I offer for Be Sober. I left my career and became a personal trainer, self-employed. And it is, but Lisa's the first to say this actually, everything good comes from getting sober. And it
I
genuinely.
knew I shouldn't have let you go first. You are such a knicker.
Well, I did say I have accredited you with it, but genuinely, it's so true. You know, what she says is so true. All of those things, me changing career, me starting playing the organ, me meeting some absolutely beautiful, amazing people, none of that would have happened without sobriety. None of it.
Yeah.
And that is thanks to my best friend, who's going to tell you what she thinks.
You know what? I haven't really got much to add from what Alex has said. I completely agree with all of that. I think something that I really, really believe in when you stop drinking is focusing on all the amazing things that sobriety brings. You really, and it's a bit cliche this, but you really are not giving up anything. You are gaining so much. And just like Alex said, that I said, everything good has happened because I stopped drinking. And we talk about this often, and I love gratitude. I'm all about it. I'm all for looking at the glass half full and looking for the positive in things. And I'm a big believer in it. And you've got choices. You either sit there and be like, oh, I've stopped drinking, my life's so rubbish. Or you can look for the good stuff, and there's so much there. But that's it, really.
So my guest today is Ken Middleton, and he is obsessed with helping people build the best version of themselves. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Yeah, for me, it just means building the best version of yourself. That is what I tell people all the time. It's around just not having. I tell everyone, in my opinion, alcohol is the great governor of life, and I talk a governor like a vehicle, right? It's like a UPS truck or school bus where it only is going to go so fast, right? When you stop drinking, you remove that governor. And so your ceiling is so much higher. So it's about just building the very best version of yourself and every day working to become somebody that you can look back on your pre-alcohol consciousness and be like, man, I'm so proud of how far you came and who you have become.
The lovely Laura Willoughby from Club Soda and the Club Soda tasting rooms. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
So thriving alcohol-free, for me, was about reconnecting with my values. It's really important to me. I'm very value-driven. I really care. I'm very passionate about things in the world. I began to think when I was drinking that I wasn't able to do anything about anything anymore because I just felt so drained and so tired. And once I gave up drinking, I felt like the person I was when I was 20, and then it was possible to change things. And so for me, that's what thriving felt like. So like I say, it's not always about the physical changes. Sometimes it's about getting back to the person that you were and that you thought you were.
Caitlin Mitchell, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you? So I'd love your answer.
Yeah, the first word that came to my mind was peace.
Keola Rains, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Thriving alcohol-free means that I live in freedom. I have no end to the possibilities for where my life can go. It means that I get to wake up feeling good. You know, most days I get to keep a smile on my face most of the time. And it means that I am able to just move through life the way I want to move without this thing holding me back. That is how I'm thriving alcohol-free.
Diane Bell is a Sundance award-winning screenwriter and director who is devoted to helping creative women live their most abundant, fulfilling dream lives. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Freedom.
Perfect.
It's as simple as that to me. When I was a drinker, I often felt like life was some sort of prison and that the alcohol let me out of the prison for a few hours. It was my key out of the prison. And when I stopped drinking, I realized that the alcohol was the prison. And that I could live outside of it forevermore. There's no prison. I don't have to get out for a few hours. And it's really the illusion that alcohol creates, that it's the freedom. It's not. Thriving without alcohol to me means being completely free and so freaking grateful for it every single day of my life.
Yasmin Spark, founder of Align Events, which is the UK's first non-alcoholic mobile cocktail bar. What does thriving alcohol-free mean?
I think you touched on it earlier. It means being your most authentic self. And for me, that's what it means, being true to myself and listening to how I feel in certain situations. And yes, I can be extrovert, but I am not naturally, an extroverted person unless I'm like super excited about something. So it was about really finding out what do I like. And, I love going for long walks. I love reading books. I'm a little bit of a nerd at heart. I love sci-fi. And it was just about embracing all of those sides.
Sheetal Kurup, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
For me, living alcohol free is being detached from the lower frequency which alcohol brings in your life and attaching yourself to a higher frequency of doing things which you enjoy doing things which you are meant to do, having that purpose, having that goal for your life, being very clear on what is it you want to create and how you can be of service to others and how you can help others, because there's so much joy when you help others, when you are being in service. And that's what it means. Just attaching myself to these higher frequencies of higher way of being and living and contributing to others in helping them fulfill their mission and purpose in life.
Arlena Allen, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
So good. I love, that's the whole point, is to thrive, right? The idea that, to me, it's actually possible. We need to believe, like, hope is hearing other people's experiences. That's the acronym for hope. And the idea is that we can thrive. We actually, you and I know people who have overcome this obstacle and have flourished on the other end. Like, this is the gateway to everything. They say that everything, what's that saying, that all your dreams are in the cave you fear to enter? Y'all, if you just get past, you just get past this and all things are possible. That's what's exciting to me.
Deb Meisner, the founder of the Alcohol Tipping Point. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Well, I love that you are asking that, because I was thinking about that word thrive, and I remembered that I've been picking like a word of the year, and 2020, my word of the year was thrive.
Wow, gosh,
And
amazing.
I know, right? And then one definition of it is just like growing and flourishing in spite of difficult circumstances.
Yeah.
In spite of circumstances, right? And so for me, thriving alcohol free is like, I am growing, I am flourishing no matter what around me. Even though there is still alcohol all around us, people are still drinking, I'm still thriving. You can still thrive without it. And that's how I feel.
Have Sarah Williamson, the best-selling author and founder of Drink Less, Live Better. So what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Sarah?
I think thriving might not have come immediately after going alcohol free. So it was something that perhaps took a little bit of time to get to. And for me, actually, thriving is to be totally okay with all of who I am, just to be entirely comfortable with myself. And by that, I mean physically, emotionally, and spiritually. And to be much, much clearer on what I want, both personally and professionally. And I guess the clarity that has come to me around what I want out of relationships, friendships, family, who I want to spend my time with, all of that thriving has been so, so great on this side of my sober journey.
Madeline, from Happiest Sober, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Yeah, I think thriving alcohol free is all about the mindset you choose to have around it, because I think it can be really easy when you quit drinking to fall into a little bit of victim mentality of, oh, I'm left out and it's not fair. Other people get to drink and I don't get to drink, and, all those things. And it's valid to feel that way early on. Sometimes that's just part of the grieving process and it's okay to feel that. But I also think at a certain point, we have to really make a decision on how we want to frame it for ourselves, right? And whether you want to stay in that place or whether you really want to lean into, like you said, it being your superpower and choosing to really focus on all the ways that it makes life better. And remembering I made this choice because I wanted a better life for myself. And I think rather than focusing on what you feel like you lost by getting sober, really making a decision, I'm going to focus on everything that there is. So I think it's really just making the decision of, I'm going to view this in an empowering way for myself.
Lindsay Henneke, a sobriety coach for women and creator of Sobriety is Your Edge. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
To me, it means being the most confident and relaxed woman in the room. So because I am not worried about drinking, and because I am not always concerned about it, I'm relaxed. And that's given me so much confidence. And I know that that seems unimaginable to people who are just entering this journey, but it is 100% possible.
Claire Pauly. Claire is an author, speaker, and blogger.
What does thriving alcohol-free mean for me? You know what? I think all sorts of things, but the main one for me is freedom. And if you've been addicted to alcohol, you know how it feels when you just have that constant voice in your head, and the freedom of not having that anymore, having so much more space, energy, time to do your own thing and to create and to enjoy life to the full is just wonderful, magical. So yes, freedom.
Michelle Houston, the founder and visionary behind To Be Honest Bev Company. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Michelle?
I think, Dupay, that focus of thriving is such an important part of that question. And we have the ability on a day-to-day basis to choose. We have choices in front of us every single day. Alcohol is just one of so many. But I think that when you do choose to be alcohol-free, it allows this cascade effect in your life of whether that's fitness or improved sleep or choices in nutrition or ways of spending your time or a business that you've been thinking about launching. Whatever it is, it allows us to experience this sense of fulfillment, presence, joy, and that sense of thriving in all of these other areas. So being alcohol free for myself has really opened up the door to be more in touch with reality, like truly, because that numbing sensation that comes with alcohol really impedes your experience in life. It not only takes away from the evening in which you've experienced, but then the days to follow, and creating that brain fog and that lethargy and that lack of mental clarity and that inability to focus. It really does affect so much that we don't realize. And I don't even have the expert background on the physiology of what's happening in terms of your brain and your liver and your kidneys and your stomach and your heart and literally every organ that is impacted, which I just neglected. Coming from health and wellness, I was like, yeah, I'm going to do all the right things for health and wellness, but then I'm going to put all of this toxic liquid into my body. Okay, that doesn't make any sense. But really, it means to me to thrive alcohol free looks like letting that ability to thrive into all of these other areas of my life. It allows it to be that cascade. It allows it to be that ripple effect. It allows me to be more present, more vibrant, more aware, more conscious in everything that I'm doing. And that's how I want to show up. And I will admit, sometimes that's not easy. Sometimes it is emotional. Sometimes I cry. Sometimes I'm sad. Sometimes I'm angry. Sometimes I'm frustrated. Sometimes I still feel guilt and shame for other things that I'm doing. It doesn't mean that it completely wipes all of those things out of your life. And now, again, everything is peachy keen and unicorns and rainbows. But it does mean that now I get to have the experience of being a human and having my emotions and being okay with that and living through them and not feeling like I have to avoid, detach, or numb from my experience. Because what a beautiful thing to get to experience all of these human things in our lives.
Anna K. Morris, a clarity and confidence coach. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Anna?
It sounds cliche to say living my best life, so I'll say it a little differently. It's living my truest life. It's living like I'm here to be me. So much of what is going on that causes us dis-ease is not actually us. And so thriving alcohol-free is me being me. And that feels really good.
Heather Danby has her Sharing Out Loud podcast. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you? Perspective.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to get all emotional again. See what you do to me?
I don't mean to.
You know, no, this is a good thing. You're like Oprah. Like, oh, she just gets to everybody. Okay, so I mean, I think I wake up every morning knowing that I'm going to wake up, and I don't even know how to explain it. I wake up and I'm just okay. I'm good. Partially because I don't wake up a job that I hate. I mean, that's another story, but I am oh my God, this is going to sound so cheesy, shackled by the chains of alcohol, but it's true. I'm no longer handcuffed
It's
to
true.
the chains of alcohol, but it's true. So, okay, here's what it means to me. I can show up. I can show up for my immediate family. I can show up for my dog who's over there sleeping in the sunshine. I can show up for my parents who have given me everything. My mom has Alzheimer's. I can go back and forth, thankfully, with the job that I have, back and forth to Michigan. It's like a 2-hour and 15-minute drive. I can do that and know that I can be present for them. I can grocery shop. I can cook. I can take care of them. I can clean. I can be present and there for anyone that needs me. And I know I'm going to wake up tomorrow morning and I'm going to be able to do it all over again. It just means that I can show up, and I can show up for me too.
Yeah. David J. Greer, an entrepreneurial coach, author, and facilitator. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, David?
I think for me to be able to do the things that allow me to thrive, that resiliency, that self piece, and to be able to do it guilt-free, that has really let me build a life of my fondest desires and to let me thrive in it every day. Not that every day is perfect, not that it doesn't have challenges, but I get to live every day as fully as possible. And to have that experience every day and to have it without any alcohol taking any part of it away, right? I'm not dulling any of my senses or any of my experiences with an artificial drug. And that's thriving to me. That is thriving.
Janet Gurand, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Thriving alcohol-free. Yeah, I love that expression because I often say to people, there's no point being sober if you're not happy, because then you're just surviving.
Yes.
We have to learn how to create an alcohol-free life that we love, and then we'll thrive. And because what I was doing is I was numbing a lot with alcohol. I had a life that I wanted to escape from, whereas now I've got a life that I love. So components of that life, I feel free. And I was watching a movie on Netflix last night, and I was saying to myself, I wonder how long it'll be before the star of this show comes out. And of course, that's alcohol. So I time it now, and it was about 3 minutes. So just seeing through all this marketing, I feel smart. I feel powerful. I've thought, okay, guys, big alcohol, I've given you enormous amounts of money and some of my health over the years, but that's it. You're not having any more. So I think there's a power in seeing through all that. And as you say, the superpower that we all feel when we've done this, because it's not an easy thing to do. As human beings, we like to be in the herd, and we've stepped away from the herd and we've made ourselves lonely and vulnerable, but we've created new tribes, new herds, and we've made ourselves much, much stronger because of it. And so I feel free and I feel powerful and I feel like my life has purpose.
Wow, I love that. And powerful in what way?
Well, as we were saying earlier, Dupe, if we can do this thing, if we can quit drinking, I mean, I drank for 40 years heavily, and I feel if I can do that and be happy about it, then I can do almost anything that I turn my hand to. So that's the power, I think. So it's confidence, isn't it? More than power, perhaps. Courage and confidence and power and
and all the rest of the good things. Godfrey and Donna Espin Smith, the Sober Coaches podcast. So what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you? So I'd love to hear both your answers. Donna, you can go first this time.
Go on, Don. Go on, Don. Get back, Zoe. Get back. Yeah, thriving alcohol-free. So for me, the biggest thing is freedom. I found so much freedom through obviously not drinking. My mental health has never been better. As we've said, I can think clearer, I'm more motivated, and my personal growth has obviously expanded. I'm a better mum, and I can truly, like I said before, be there for them 100%. But it's also about, for me, the thriving is about me stepping into this new identity and actually loving who I am and loving the person that I've become. So yeah, I think that's what I think.
Great answer.
Well, for me, it is seeing things in full colour. Life is now in full colour. That is the best way I can describe it. And with that, I mean, you might live on a certain vibration, but once you see it in full colour, then there's no going back, definitely not. And the other thing, a lot of the things that I put on some of my posts is clear, calm confidence with a bright sunshine in between each one. So yeah, the calmness, even my husband commented on that pretty early on, how all of a sudden I had this kind of calmness and a confidence, and that comes from within for sure.
Jessica Guerrieri is a writer and a novelist. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
It's such a good question, and I love that you ask people this, because to me it hits on exactly what we talked about, which is the hope and the joy. When I think of thriving, I think it was Kaiser that used that word as their pitch, which is a healthcare initiative here. And thriving is such a beautiful description of it, because anyone that either knows me now, knew me, I guess what I call like my past life, they find me and they say, it's so wonderful to see you thriving. And thriving is genuinely living the best, happiest, most authentic version of yourself.
Kenneth Watson, The 12 Faces of Sober book and podcast. So, Kenneth, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Thriving alcohol-free. I would say being vulnerable. This is a process of getting to know yourself.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a clean slate.
Samantha Lander, what does thriving alcohol-free means to you? Samantha.
Oh, okay. So thriving. I know I am thriving when I am doing service work. I think that's really important. And I'm working on my legacies.
Amy and Matt Edwards, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you? And I might go to you, Matt, and ask you first.
No, so she didn't get to take all the good answers. I think
thriving alcohol free is, again, that freedom that you don't even see because alcohol hazes it over. And you free up your mind, you free up your time, you free up your finances to really look and make everything just a little bit, that 1% rule, right? 1% better every day. But so much easier when you're not putting 99% of it into alcohol every day. And I think it sounds like, oh, we quit and we're doing all this stuff all of a sudden. Well, it's been 3.5 years, right? But at 1% a day, we've added a little bit here and a little bit there. And if you told me 3.5 years ago I'd be sober and going to the gym 3 times a week, I'd be like, you're drunk right now. But here I am, right? And so just giving it a chance is just, you get to the point where you're like, I don't want to go back because I've gained so much by giving up one thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, love that.
I would say the same. I would just say that I would have never thought that, I mean, because it's over 4 years, that looking at my life then, because I didn't want to take chances. I had quit making chances. Oh, I can't do that. I can't do this. It has opened that up. It's like, oh, you know what? I'm going to become a coach. And I almost at the last minute almost didn't do that. But then I'm like, okay, you have to do the opposite of what your body is telling you to do right now. You just do the opposite. It's going to be okay. Just see what it's like. And so I think that has increased my ability to start to thrive in life. I'm doing things like, I remember our first vacation, we did a zip line. You would have never seen me on a zip line before. Never. And yes, it's so much fun. And you just are doing new things, and we still are doing new things. So I think it's like that description of the onion. You just keep peeling off layers. And it just keeps
I
getting
can do
better.
so much more now that I don't spend half my time in the bathroom. So
It's true.
Just saying.
So true. Karina Goetz is the CEO of StarCat, a Middle Eastern advisory training and consulting company. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
I think it just means that there is a different way, and you don't have to drink to be social, to be happy, to enjoy yourself. I think there's lots of alternatives, and if you want to look after your health and your well-being, I think that's the better way, in my opinion.
Ray Donovan has a podcast, Stacked and Days. What does thriving alcohol-free mean for you?
Simply thriving means being in the driver's seat of my own life and truly being able to wield the pen and be an author in my own experience, as opposed to being left to the externalities to move me in any direction that I happen to move in the day. Like, I feel really good about having a degree of control over my experience. And that's about as good as I can get. I can move from there.
Chrissy Janiger. And Chrissy is a certified alcohol-free mindset, success, and NLP coach and author. I'd love to hear, what does thriving alcohol-free mean for you then?
So I know I said this earlier, but to me, it's like living the most like dreamiest life and doing things that you never thought were possible. And I said this before, but being in alignment with who you are and what you want to create.
Heather Lowe is the founder of Ditched the Drink. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Definitely just being aligned, mind, body, spirit, living in alignment, knowing who you are, and marching to that beat of your own internal drum with clarity, with focus, with compassion, and with healing.
Emma Redmond is a qualified counsellor and a coach. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
Choice. It's having a choice and having the strength and the self-belief in myself to know that I can make a decision for myself which feels authentic. And ultimately, if it doesn't work, I live with the consequences, and that's cool. But the bottom line of it is, choice, 100%.
Lindsay Sutherland Bowl is the founder of She Walks Canada, and she's developed the Uncovery app. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you?
To me, I live a life of freedom. I live a life of security. I live a life of honesty and presence, and I don't hate myself every morning when I wake up. And I am not fearful that I'm a has-been that never was, because I know that my best days are today, my best days are tomorrow. And of course, bad things are still going to happen because life happens. But there's absolutely nothing that can be thrown at me that I cannot handle. And I love that idea that things don't happen to us, they happen for us. And I am so grateful that my freedom has happened for me.
Alexandra McRoberts, so what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you now, a year on, Alex?
I love that question. Thriving alcohol-free means living a life that you're proud of, that you dreamed of. And it builds self-esteem when you actually do the things that you say you want to do. So if I want to stay sober, then actually staying sober. If I want to get up in the morning and do yoga, then actually doing yoga. If I want to walk every day, then actually going for my walk and putting in these things into place so that you can be who you want to be and live joyfully.
Rhys Evans is a mindset and abundance coach. What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Rhys?
I think living your best life and being your whole authentic self, not needing a crutch, but knowing that you are whole and enough being you.
Ken McKimsey Middleton, the author of the book Bamboozled, How Alcohol Makes a Fool of Us All. I've asked you before, but what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, Ken? It might be a different answer.
Yeah, I have no idea what my first answer was. I will tell you, for me, it's as cliche as it sounds, it's just being the very best version of yourself, right? The thing about alcohol, I tell people any day, it doesn't mean your life will be terrible. It doesn't mean that you won't be successful in life. It doesn't mean that in any capacity. But I do believe for anybody, it means you will never reach your highest pinnacle of whom you could be as an individual, the quality caliber of person that you could become if you drink consistently. And that for me, thriving alcohol free is around pushing every day to be that person and not taking 90%, 95% as our barometer, going for 100% every single day.
Well, I do hope you enjoyed that episode as much as I did, and I hope you've been inspired and motivated. And I wonder, are you thriving alcohol-free? And if you are, I'd love to know what that means to you. There seems to be a bit of a consistent theme, but some of the responses when I asked, what does thriving alcohol-free mean to you, were freedom, being authentic, feeling comfortable in your own skin, aligned to your values, feeling confident and clarity, full of clarity. And of course, my book, A Cocktail of Clarity, it's all about having clarity as well. So I do hope that you enjoyed that episode, and I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to hear how you found the podcast now that it's a year old. What were your key takeaways? What was your favorite episode? What does thriving alcohol-free mean to you? And maybe if you're not yet thriving alcohol-free, which response today has maybe inspired you to look to thrive alcohol-free? I'm so grateful to you and for you listening for over the past year. No matter how many episodes you've listened to, I'm glad that you are part of the Thrive Alcohol-Free community. And don't forget that the Sober Summit is now on. It's on until tomorrow. You have 24 hours to listen to each of the recordings. There was one on yesterday. If you sign up now, today, you can probably still listen to yesterday's talks. There are 24 speakers, all speaking about some fantastic topics. And I know that you will be inspired and motivated by them as well. I'm so lucky quite a few of them have been on my podcast as well. So if you hear any of them and want to hear their story or hear more, then feel free to go back to their episode of the podcast. And yeah, some of the topics include things like how to regulate your nervous system without alcohol, navigating life's transitions without alcohol, how to navigate your emotions. People are talking about holistic sobriety, alcohol and relationships. they're also talking about the fact that you can socialize sober, and then the predicament of comfort zones, and discover the secret to alcohol-free living. So that's just a few of the 24 talks that are going to happen. Mine is finding your passion in sobriety. So as I said, it's completely free to sign up. Just click the link in the show notes below, and I look forward to seeing you then. Okay, well, have the most wonderful week. Thank you for listening and for being part of the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. I appreciate you, and I can't wait to hear how you get on your alcohol free journey. So feel free to send me an email, or to DM me, or to post on Instagram and tag me, whatever you prefer to do. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on the podcast. And if you would like to hear from any specific guests, or if you have any questions that you'd like answered on the podcast, then just get in touch. Okay, here's to another year of the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. And yeah, I hope you have the most wonderful week, and I will see you next week. Take care. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to the Thrive Alcohol Free podcast. If you enjoyed the episode, please subscribe so you get alerted every time I drop a new episode. I'd love it if you could rate, review, and share this episode. Feel free to tag me on Instagram at Thrive Alcohol Free and follow me for daily tips. If you would like to work with me, I offer one-to-one coaching sessions and have my signature group coaching program. If you're not yet ready for coaching, I also have a self-paced online course, which is a companion to my book, A Cocktail of Clarity. All the links are in the show notes. I will see you in the next episode. Have a wonderful week. Take care.